kind of having some bad pain this week, which sucks because I have a lot to get done. But when is that not the case? I mean, there's always things to do. So I think that in light of that, I'm going to talk about two pieces of media that I read yesterday that inspired me a great deal. As always, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell on YouTube if you want to know every time I upload a video. It will like notify you via email, I think, or maybe the YouTube app. I can't remember how I get notified, but it's kind of cool with people you want to keep up with and not get algorithmed out, basically. So the first thing is this article that I read on Unwinnable, I think, and it's called, actually I can't remember what the article is called, but it's about hood cyberpunk, like in the hood. And I loved this article, obviously, because it talks about how while a lot of the cyberpunk genre is about like living dirty or slumming it, like those two things basically, it tends to not be about people who are like from slums or from the hood or from like marginalized groups, but rather people who are a little bit more privileged, who just gotta get the next job, and kind of like this white concept, male concept of the world. And that is very true. You know, I do think that that's one of the reasons I loved William Gibson's Cyberpunk, is because it was one of the first cyberpunk genres that featured, you know, women characters. There's Case Pollard and Molly Millions, who, you know, were members of marginalized groups and classes, who had various disabilities or traumas that they were dealing with, and that was a part of their cyberpunk story, and I really related to that. Also in William Gibson's other books, like Edoru, which I think is part of the Sprawl series, I can't remember. You know, there's like a 13-year-old girl character who is a fan of this rock star and has a cool computer, and that's like her whole story. And she's the main character of that book. So I think, you know, while there is diversity, that is unusual. This article was right. The article is really cool because it focuses on the idea of cyberpunk in the hood, like cyberpunk as reflected through experiences of marginalized people in actual marginalized settings. You know, what city housing actually is like, you know, in crowded apartments, or in difficult to live in spaces, or polluted areas, or in disenfranchised neighborhoods that are highly policed, right, unfairly. Like what it is actually like for those people living in those systems, and how that is more of an accurate representation of that cyberpunk concept of like, you know, disenfranchised people fighting against these large faceless corporations and technologies, in the sense of a globalization of these powers that we can't control. So that was really cool for me to read, because that's a reflection of themes that I'm working on in my game Sync. That's literally the story of that game. Like you're marginalized and disenfranchised people living in, you know, hostile urban environments. You've come from there. Those are your environments in your neighborhoods, and you're trying to defend them and protect them and make things better for you and your families and friends by fighting against the systems that work against you. So cool. I guess I'm doing something right. The second thing is that I started reading this book, which is awesome. It is similar to Staying with the Trouble in that it's talking about the Anthropocene, you know, the state of living that we're in currently and geologists and feminists are starting to use this term because humans have the greatest effect of everything on our planet. Basically, we're affecting the ecology more than anything else. Humans are, not the weather, not normal planet things. We are. So it's like, you know, terrifying, but also means that we could affect things for good, right? If we work towards it. But capitalism is mostly preventing us from doing that. So that's what the concept of Anthropocene is. And in this book, in the mushroom book, there is this idea that she's talking about of progress, how you know, progress has been synonymous with human ventures, but we don't necessarily see that progress often comes at the cost of the living things around us, let it be, you know, other animals or plants that are part of our ecosystems, or you know, other human bodies or people that we're importing from other countries or stealing or destroying their land, or taking advantage of, you know, marginalized workers or disenfranchised people who have never had power within these systems. That's kind of how progress happens. I just want to read this part because I think it sums it up pretty well. To see them in the shadow of the Anthropocene's anthropo, we must reorient our attention. Many pre-industrial livelihoods, from foraging to stealing, persist today, and new ones, including commercial mushroom picking, emerge, but we neglect them because they're not a part of progress. These livelihoods make worlds too, and they show us how to look around rather than ahead. So she's kind of saying that we have to take stock of what's happening around us instead of moving forward and destroying things in the process. Like, we have to actively work towards trying to save and protect the things around us that have less power. And that's the only way we're going to save our planet. And then in smaller ways, that's the only way we can kind of save our social situations as well. And it just made me think about stuff that I'm still processing from things that I heard about at Gen Con, things people are talking about from Gen Con. You know, it's the big industry game thing. And how I'm kind of sad still that the things that are getting the most attention and the most press are still like these things that are made by dudes and dude-driven, and any kind of change is going to have to come from those in power as well, who are all dudes. You know, everyone's talking about how Joe Manganiello is playing D&D and was at the Margaret Weiss thing and booth, and that's super cool. You know, I'm glad that it's getting press. But why are we like still talking about D&D as the dominant game in our media after like 50 years? Like, there are other role-playing games. They've existed for a long time. They're still being made, and there are games made by all kinds of diverse people. In other game media, other games can be named, like card games, board games, video games can be named by the popular consciousness. But role-playing games, it's still D&D. It's just so frustrating to me. Like, I don't know, it makes me want to urge the people in power, these dudes in power, companies, you know, like D&D, like Hasbro, to kind of look around and take stock before kind of blindly charging forward in what they see as progress, and like how the OSR, while I have nothing against the OSR as a movement in particular, is just kind of mimicking that. You know, it's kind of more of the same type of dungeon stories and dudes. Mostly dudes. Yeah, those are my thoughts today. Sorry. Yeah. I'm kind of a downer, I guess. I'm sorry. Well, not both things were a downer. The mushroom thing's a downer a little bit, but I like to try and educate myself about the newest thoughts that are coming out about this type of thing. I want to be aware as much as possible, and it inspires my brain to make connections, and that inspires me to make games. So here we are. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you found this interesting, and let me know what you think about the Anthropocene and D&D still being the dominant game in our industry, and Hood Cyberpunk. And I'll see you next video.